Hi, welcome to the community podcast from Bloomfield Township Police Department. I'm Captain Bryan Pazutti, and I will be standing in for Chief Gallagher for a few. Today I have as my guest is Officer Tanner Davis. Tanner, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, glad to be here. So I'm Officer Tanner Davis. I've been in Bloomfield Township for just about 7 years now. Before that, I went to Oakland University, graduated with a criminal justice degree, and I went to Macomb Police Academy after that. While I was there, I saw the job hiring for Bloomfield Township and put my application in. Also knew somebody from my hometown that came here, so I've been here ever since.
So what enticed you to come to Bloomfield Township?
When I looked into it after I saw the hiring flyer, and it's diverse population, the geographical location with Woodward and Telegraph, and I looked at different specialty units that we offer here, and it piqued my interest.
So let's talk about some of the special units or some of the training. As my understanding, you are a trainer, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a trainer in multiple different disciplines: firearms, patrol pistol, patrol rifle, an armor, field training officer, and newly part of our reality-based training.
Wow, you've done a lot of things. And how long have you been here now?
January will be 7 years.
7 years. So you've taken on a lot of different tasks, excuse me, a lot of different projects, it seems like, in your 7 years, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk about a couple different things. Firearm instructor, correct? So what does that entail? What kind of training do you have to go through to be a firearm instructor?
So we have to go through an MCOLS certified training program to become an instructor, and then after that we'll have to make sure that all of our officers are MCOLS compliant and qualified each year.
Okay, so that's just one of the, and you do another kind of firearms too, is our patrol rifles?
Yep, patrol rifles and pistols and shotguns as well.
So walk me through the training process, I guess. What kind of trainings do you do with the officers then? We'll just start with pistols, first of all.
With our pistols, we have to do MCOLS qualification every year. Then we also have our own qualification course that we put our officers through quarterly, so 4 times a year. It's just different drills, different scenarios that we have to put our officers through, engage different targets, and that's our compliance there.
Okay, and then so Bloomfield Township, we have our own firearms range, is that correct?
We do, yeah. It's pretty unique to Bloomfield Township. Not everybody has their own range. We have 4 different booths set up, and we can go out to 100 feet total. So it's really nice to have our own range.
So by having our own range, what is the benefits of that?
The benefits is that as far as the scheduling goes, because we can train at work. We don't have to call people in on their days off, and we can train day and night. So night shifts can do when they're in for work, and day shift as well.
So regarding the handgun training, the pistol qualifications training, do you change it every quarter, every year? How does that actually work?
We change our drills up. We'll do different warm-up drills, but as far as the qualification goes, we have to have that certified through MCOLS, through the state of Michigan. So we just developed a new course of fire for pistols, but as far as that goes, we just have to have that approved.
Okay, and you change it in regards to the course of fire. Is there do you do it with the lights off, the lights on, with flashlights? I don't. Can you explain to the different, I guess, courses of fire that you guys do?
Yeah, so having our own indoor range, we can turn the lights all the way down. We'll do daylight drills, which would be with all the lights on, and then obviously at the end of our qualification, we'll do some low light drills. We can dim the lights or completely shut them off, and then our officers will have to use their handheld flashlights, and we just got new weapon-mounted lights as well for our patrol pistols, so we have to do that.
So the range that we have here in Bloomfield Township, is that also able to handle our rifles as well?
Yes, it is, yep.
And do you do the same type of course of fire with low-level lights and different scenarios going on there?
We do, and then every year we also do a week-long rifle shoot at Multi-Lakes in Commerce Township, and that's where we do primarily most of our rifle qualification.
Would that include, so what does that tell? Is that like marksmanship, or is that different scenario-based as well?
Everything from close range to marksmanship level of shooting, and we can go out to 200 yards there.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff that you sound like you get.
Yeah.
A lot of training. What kind of training do you have to go through to be a firearms instructor?
You just have to go through like an MCOLS approved academy instruction course just to become an instructor, and you have to pass a qualification course as well that's I guess a higher standard than what the general MCOLS qualification is.
Now the instructor course, is that a 1 day, a 2 day, a couple weeks?
It's a 40-hour course, so a full week.
Okay, well, it sounds like a lot you've done. So you also mentioned you're an FTO, is that correct?
Correct.
So how many people have you trained?
I've been an FTO for about 3 years now, and I've trained 5 people so far.
So an FTO is a field training officer position, correct? So you would take our new officers and make them, the whole goal of it was to, through the training, is to have them become solo patrol officers, correct?
Correct.
So how does that program work? Is it through just different phases or different sections, or just kind of just put them in a car and just go?
So we do 4 phases of training. So when you become a new recruit officer with the Bloomfield Township, you'll do a week of administrative training. You'll have to qualify with a pistol and rifle, for example. And then you'll do a week of limbo, which basically you're just riding along with an FTO. You're not really doing much yet. You're just kind of getting a feel of it. From there, you'll go into phase 1. You're only doing, 15 to 25% of the work, and that'll be 4 weeks. You'll move on to phase 2, which is generally a night's phase. You'll do a little bit more work there, around 50%. Then you'll move back to phase 3. Again, 4 weeks of that. You'll do a little bit more work there. Phase 4 is broken up into two different phases there. We'll have a pre-shadow for 2 weeks. You'll have your FTO with you still, and they'll still help you out, but you're supposed to be doing most of the work there. Then the last 2 weeks of phase 4 is shadow. So your FTO is in plain clothes, and you are doing most of the work. They're just there to shadow you and make sure you're doing the job the right way.
So being a trainer, as in, I guess we'll call it our use of force type training, our force on force type training, what are the benefits, if there is any, being an instructor there to see the officers, and how does that correlate to being a training officer when you're training the brand new recruits?
So we get to set a baseline when they come here and when we hire them. So we'll set a baseline there, see what training they need, what they need to work on, and then once they're in FTO, sometimes those areas of improvement that's needed will show, and then we can focus our training on that.
Okay, so what do you believe, I guess I could say, is that you think is one of the most important aspects of training is in regards to law enforcement, and why do we need to do that?
The fact that in incidents of high stress, we revert back to our level of training. So if we train to a very minimum standard, that's what we're going to revert to. So we have to try to overcome that and train to a higher standard, which we do here at Bloomfield Township, because that's what we'll rely on.
Okay. And then recently, I believe you became a reality-based training instructor, I guess you could say.
Correct.
What exactly goes on with that kind of training?
So with our reality-based training, we put our officers through a lot of different scenarios, real-world examples, whether it's a domestic violence situation, a combative subject, or even somebody with a firearm. And we can, using protective equipment, using simunition, firearms, we can put them through those scenarios with actual role players, and it kind of builds that stress and puts them through real-world examples.
So it sounds like that as a department as a whole, that we focus a lot on our training and the importance of training. Do you find that just overall, just asking you, as a profession, how important is training in law enforcement, and do you think it could be improved just overall?
I think training can always be improved, and we should always continue to learn, and we should always be learning and improving who we are as police officers and just in general and as a human. But as far as everything goes, and we face a lot of scrutiny in the media for our training. So as far as Bloomfield Township goes, we like to go above and beyond those standards just to make sure that nothing happens.
I agree with you with regards to the attack of training.
Yeah.
As a captain, is that one of the biggest things that you find is they always ask is, how was your training? What was the officers trained at? And I do believe that, being part of the training cadre as well, and yourself, that we definitely exceed the level of expectations in regards to training.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So if there was one thing that you could ask for, I guess you could say regards to our training and how we could improve it overall as an organization, what would that suggestion be?
I would like to say just train more often. We already do it way more than what the state requires us to. But and if there's budget restraints as well as manpower restraints, but we continue to train more or at a higher level would improve our our abilities.
Okay, so given all the conversation we just had, is there any specific stories that you have where training was a benefit for you, or that you know of any of the officers involved?
Numerous different high stress incidents that my partners as well as myself would revert back to our level of training. And because we train at a higher level here at Bloomfield Township, we were able to overcome the problems that we were facing.
Okay, for example, a felony stop. Can you tell me how the training would benefit? Because I know we do train in felony stops.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how that would translate out into now you're at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on telegraph?
Yeah.
You have a lot of vehicles, a lot of cars, a lot of citizens, and there's a lot of safety things that we have to be concerned about. Can you just tell us how that would help with the training?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to simulate all the traffic on Telegraph or Woodward, for example, in our trainings, but just the ability to run through it. There's so many different moving components of a felony stop, whether how many cars you have, because that can be dependent on what different calls are going on, what's your shift manpower at that time. So just being able to...
everybody pulls over too, right?
Oh, of course they do, yeah.
Traffic gets out of the way all the time?
Nobody ever goes to the left side, right? So just being able to focus on the task at hand. Everybody has their own situation. We can't be all giving orders at the same time. Communicating with ourselves, with each other, and also the vehicle that we have stopped.
And one of the most important things as a trainer, and maybe you can add on this as well, is the idea of after you do train and after you do have an incident like, we'll just say a felony stop, is it true that we debrief everything as a unit, as a training cadre, and even as a shift, and how important is that?
Debriefing is something that is not it's not a new thing that we do, but we do it more often now. And it's a good thing because we can focus on areas that we need to improve on. And we can use those experiences or those examples in our next training that comes up. So we debrief what you did as an individual officer, what we can improve on, what we did wrong, because we have to take into account when we make mistakes, right? So we identify those mistakes that we made and how we can improve on that for the next time.
And the point of debrief is not to criticize, is that correct?
Correct.
The point of debrief is to learn. The point of debrief is to, just like we kind of said before, is to improve and to make ourselves better.
Mm-hmm.
So Tanner, let's go back to the idea of training in more specific, scenarios. Say, for example, for traffic stops. As uniformed patrol officers, you guys stop vehicles all the time, correct?
Correct.
So let's take us through regards to training. What does that involve? What does that entail?
So like you said, it's something that we do nonstop on patrol throughout the day and night, but it's something that could be potentially very dangerous, so we have to train to that. We run our officers through traffic stop scenarios, trainings, and through reality-based training. So we'll do anything from having a possible intoxicated driver, maybe a driver with a firearm or a weapon, something like that, and we'll have to have our officers make the traffic stop from start to finish, vehicle positioning, proper positioning that we can have visual on the driver or any other occupants that are inside there. The positioning of our vehicle is also for our safety as well as the people that we're pulling over. We have to have radio communication. We're also keeping an eye on the driver, making sure they're not reaching into the floorboard, reaching into the glove box, whatever it might be. We don't know what they're reaching for at that point, right? They could just be reaching for the registration, but we don't know that. So we have to take steps of precaution. And then from there, we'll have our officers approach that vehicle, make contact with the driver. Do they see anything? Do they see any weapons in the car? Do they smell any intoxicants? Different scenarios like that. So in a real-world scenario, we try to pick a safe location. I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking before this, but you can't just pull a vehicle over in the middle of Maple, right? So we have to pick a different plaza, different parking lot, something like that. And on night shift, it goes a step further because we're trying to find a lit location. From there, we'll make the traffic stop. We'll approach that vehicle. The whole time you're scanning inside the car. How many occupants are there? Asking them proper questions. Seeing where they're headed, where they're coming from. We're trying to look at their eyes. Is their speech slurred? Maybe they're intoxicated. Maybe they're not. Do they have any weapons in the car? Do you see any weapons in the car? It's not uncommon to walk up and there's firearms just sitting out in the open. From there, we have to take that investigation, obviously, get more officers on the way, and then proceed from there.
So it sounds like it's not every traffic stop is a routine traffic stop.
And there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop, no.
So if I'm going to stop a vehicle for whatever reason, for a traffic violation, I see the vehicle, it goes through a red light, we'll say, and I'm going to stop the car, and we'll just use Maple and Telegraph southbound, south of Maple, for example. Take me through that. How would you stop that car?
So before I stop that car, I always try to run the license plate to see if it's wanted or if there's any dangerous registered owners to that vehicle, right?
But we'd like to know who's inside the car if we can,
do like to
correct?
know. We can't always, obviously, in case of running a red light, we can't always take the time to run that license plate and see who we're dealing with, right? And it also, maybe it's not even the registered owner that's driving that car, so we don't know. So I would pick a safe location, whether it's a gas station there or the plaza, maybe Nino's Plaza right there. That's a pretty safe location because we don't want to be on the side of Telegraph. There's no shoulder there, which is also comes into play with vehicle positioning. We don't want to hug that curb if we end up being there. And also drivers, they go through training and they know that they should pull over to the right or get into a parking lot.
So let's say the
But you
vehicle
never
pulls into Nino's. It pulls in and it goes into a parking spot and it pulls in. Where are we going to position our patrol car?
When I'm training a recruit officer, I'm trying to tell them to position their vehicle, something that will protect them, give them a barrier between them and the driver. And also you have to maintain a visual. So you want to be able to see if that driver door opens. You want to see if that passenger door opens. That way you can react from there.
And why is that barrier so important?
Because we don't know what's in that vehicle. We don't know if that person's going to try to get out. As we've seen in the news, plenty. Maybe they're going to try to shoot at us.
Okay, so we position our vehicle in a correct way, whatever you're comfortable with, and now we're going to walk up to that car. Which way are we walking up to that car?
Depends on what location that it was picked for that traffic stop. So if you're on the side of Telegraph, maybe you're in an area on Telegraph that has a shoulder. I personally like to approach the passenger side. Just gets me out of the way of traffic. We see that time and time again as well as officers getting struck by other vehicles passing by a traffic stop. So pick your location, try to approach that vehicle as safely as possible. And the whole time that you're approaching that vehicle, you're also scanning inside that vehicle. And like I mentioned earlier, seeing if they're reaching, maybe they're reaching underneath their seat. There's not really a reason to be reaching under your seat as an officer's walking up to you, but they do. So we have to be scanning that for potential threats.
In regards to the driver's behavior, is it normal to be nervous, I guess you could say, being pulled over by the police? So are some things that are
Oh,
okay?
definitely. I would say 9 times out of 10 people are nervous. And that's part of our training as well, trying to differentiate, are they just nervous or are they trying to hide something? So, I mean, normal people who don't get stopped often, they are nervous. And that's where you just have to talk to them like a normal human being. We don't have to bark orders at them if that's not needed and kind of put them at ease.
So there's a lot of things involved. So like I said, from the positioning of the car, the stopping the car, why we're
Very
stopping
much.
the car,
Yep.
our approach to the car, and then when you're even at the side of the door having a conversation or informing of a violation or the reason why the stop, there's a lot of different things going on.
A lot of different things, and it ever changing as well.
So is that one of the reasons why I would think that training is just important, because it just changes all the time,
Yes.
day in and day out.
Ever evolving, and we have to be able to adapt to that.
Tanner, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate your time. And thank you, everybody out there watching Community Policing. Have a good day.